The crimson fields. The twin suns of Xerion 7 painted the battlefield in shades of amber and crimson, their dying light casting long shadows across the devastated mining complex. Captain Sarah Mitchell crouched behind the twisted remains of a harvesting machine, her breathing steady despite the chaos erupting around her. The acrid smell of burned metal and discharged plasma filled her nostrils as she surveyed the battlefield through her tactical visor. 3 years of war had led to this moment. What started as a dispute over mining rights to Xerion 7's rare crystal deposits had escalated into something far more deadly. The Valkyrians, a proud reptilian species from the Andromeda sector, viewed humans as weak mammals, unworthy of claiming territory in their ancestral hunting grounds. Humanity, desperate for the energy crystals that could power their expanding colonies, had refused to back down. Sarah adjusted her grip on her pulse rifle, watching the tactical display overlay enemy positions in red. The 23rd Colonial Defense Force had been tasked with holding the primary mining facility, while evacuation ships lifted off with the last of the civilian workers. But the Valkyrians had other plans. A thunderous roar echoed across the battlefield as a massive Valkyrian dropship descended through the smoke-filled sky. The vessel, shaped like a predator's claw, discharged dozens of armored warriors onto the rocky terrain. Sarah had studied their species extensively during her years as a military strategist. The Valkyrians stood nearly 8 feet tall, their scaled hide naturally resistant to most human weapons. Their culture revolved around strength and dominance, viewing mercy as the ultimate weakness. "Captain, we've got incoming from the eastern ridge," came the voice of Sergeant Torres through her comm unit. "At least 40 hostiles moving fast." Sarah keyed her radio. "All units maintain defensive positions. Do not engage unless you have a clear tactical advantage. Our job is to buy time, not win glory." The ground trembled beneath her feet as Valkyrian war machines advanced across the open terrain. These weren't the sleek, efficient vehicles of human engineering. Valkyrian technology looked organic, grown rather than built, with curved surfaces that resembled massive insects or prehistoric
beasts.
Their weapon systems pulsed with bioluminescent energy, casting eerie patterns of light across their chitinous armor. Through her scope, Sarah watched the lead Valkyrian unit approach. The commander rode atop a massive biomechanical mount, its 6 legs carrying it across the rocky ground with surprising grace. The creature's rider wore ceremonial armor marked with trophies from previous battles, including what looked suspiciously like human dog tags. Commander Thane, according to intelligence reports, was one of their most feared war leaders. He had led the assault on 3 human colonies, leaving no survivors. His tactical brilliance was matched only by his ruthlessness in battle. Sarah had never faced him directly, but his reputation preceded him like a shadow of death. The battle erupted with sudden violence. Plasma bolts streaked across the battlefield like fallen stars, their energy leaving molten scars in the rocky ground. Sarah's soldiers returned fire with precision, their training evident in every calculated shot. But the Valkyrians kept coming, their natural armor absorbing hits that would have felled human soldiers. A massive explosion shook the ground as a Valkyrian plasma cannon struck the mining facility's main support structure. Debris rained down, like meteor shower, forcing Sarah to dive for better cover. As she rolled behind a concrete barrier, something caught her attention in the settling dust. Movement where there shouldn't be any. Small, erratic, and clearly in distress. Sarah raised her scope and felt her breath catch. Trapped beneath a fallen beam was a young Valkyrian, probably no older than the equivalent of a human child. The creature's scaled hide bore the distinctive patterns of youth, lighter and more vibrant than the battle-hardened adults. Its left leg was pinned beneath twisted metal, and dark blood seeped through cracks in its natural armor. The young Valkyrian struggled weakly against its prison, emitting high-pitched distress calls that cut through the din of battle. Its large, amber eyes darted frantically as it searched for help that wasn't coming. The adult Valkyrians were too focused on their assault to notice one small casualty among the chaos. Every tactical manual Sarah had ever read screamed at her to ignore the wounded enemy. The young Valkyrian would grow up to become another warrior in their endless war against humanity. Saving it made no strategic sense. It was illogical, potentially suicidal, and completely contrary to military doctrine. But as Sarah watched the terrified child struggle beneath the debris, she felt something deeper than training take hold of her heart. This wasn't a warrior or a threat. This was a frightened, hurt child who needed help. Sarah keyed her comm unit. Torres, I need covering. Fire on the eastern approach. Keep them busy for 2 minutes. Captain, what are you planning? Something probably stupid. Sarah muttered as she slung her rifle across her back and pulled out her emergency medical kit. She sprinted across 30 meters of open ground, while plasma bolts sizzled through the air around her. The young Valkyrian spotted her approach and let out a terrified shriek, trying desperately to crawl away from the approaching human, but its trapped leg made escape impossible. Sarah dropped to her knees beside the debris pile, her hands moving to assess the situation. The beam was too heavy to lift alone, but she might be able to shift it enough to free the child's leg. She placed her hands against the metal and began to push, straining against its weight. The young Valkyrian watched her with wide, uncomprehending eyes. Its translator collar, standard issue even for their youth, rendered its frightened chittering into broken English. No hurt, no hurt. Please no hurt. I'm not going to hurt you, Sarah said softly, continuing to work at freeing the trapped limb. I'm here to help. The concept seemed to confuse the young alien. Its species had no equivalent word for the kind of help Sarah was offering. In Valkyrian culture, the strong dominated the weak. Aid was only given in exchange for submission or as part of a pack hierarchy. A human helping a Valkyrian child made no sense within their understanding of the universe. Sarah managed to shift the beam enough to slide the young Valkyrian's leg free. The limb was badly injured but not broken. She quickly applied a universal trauma dressing from her kit, designed to work on various alien physiologies encountered during humanity's expansion into space. The child stopped struggling as Sarah worked, its amber eyes studying her face with curious intensity. When she began to carefully splint the injured leg using supplies from her medical kit, the young Valkyrian made soft questioning sounds. There you go, little one, Sarah murmured as she secured the splint. That should help until your people can get you proper medical attention. She was preparing to carry the child to safety when the air around them suddenly filled with the thunder of approaching Valkyrian warriors. Sarah looked up to see Commander Thane himself, leading a squad of elite soldiers in their direction. His biomechanical mount reared up on its hind legs, its clawed front limbs scraping the air as it scented the scene before them. Thane's massive form dominated the battlefield as he dismounted. His ceremonial armor caught the light of the twin suns, casting rainbow patterns across his scaled hide. Battle scars crisscrossed his face and arms, each one a testament to countless conflicts. His reptilian eyes, cold and calculating, fixed on Sarah with predatory intensity. The other Valkyrian warriors formed a semicircle around them, weapons raised but not yet firing. They seemed as confused as their young comrade by the scene before them. A human soldier, alone and vulnerable, cradling an injured Valkyrian child instead of using it as a hostage or shield. Commander Thane approached slowly, his massive frame casting Sarah and the young Valkyrian in shadow. When he spoke, his deep voice carried the authority of absolute command. His translator collar rendered his words into precise, unaccented English. Human female. You hold our spawn blood. Explain your actions before I tear the life from your soft flesh. Sarah slowly stood, the young Valkyrian secure in her arms. She could feel its rapid heartbeat against her chest, could sense its continued fear and confusion. Around them, the sounds of battle continued, but this small pocket of the battlefield had become an island of tense silence. Your child was hurt, Sarah said simply. I helped. The words seemed to ripple through the assembled Valkyrian warriors like stones thrown into still water. Several exchanged glances, their reptilian features expressing emotions Sarah couldn't quite read. Commander Thane's scarred head tilted slightly, studying her with the intensity of a predator evaluating unexpected prey. You risk death song to preserve spawn blood, not of your pack bond, Thane said slowly, This behavior has no logic. You gain no strength from this action, you claim no territory. What dominance do you seek? Sarah looked down at the young Valkyrian in her arms, then back up at the towering commander. I don't seek dominance. Where I come from, we protect children, all children, even if they're different from us. The concept clearly challenged everything the Valkyrians understood about warfare and species interaction. Sarah could see the confusion in their reptilian features, the way they glanced at each other seeking understanding of something that lay outside their cultural framework. Commander Thane stepped closer, his massive form radiating barely controlled violence. Show us this protection strength, he growled. Prove why the prey that fights would choose preservation over predation. As Sarah carefully transferred the young Valkyrian back to its people, she realized they stood at a crossroads that would determine not just their own fates, but the future relationship between their species. The war had been fought with weapons and tactics, but this moment would be won or lost with something far more powerful than plasma cannons or battle armor. It would be decided by humanity's greatest strength, their capacity to see beyond difference and choose compassion over conflict. Tiakao. Crimson light of Zarian 7's twin suns continued to bathe the battlefield, but something fundamental had shifted in that light. Two species who had seen each other only as enemies were about to discover what it meant to recognize the common thread that connected all intelligent life, the instinct to protect the innocent and nurture the young. The bridge between stars, our transfer of the young Valkyrian created a moment of profound silence on the battlefield. Even the distant sounds of combat seemed muted as the assembled warriors watched their commander cradle the injured child with surprising gentleness. Commander Thane's scarred features softened as he examined the human medical work, his clawed fingers tracing the careful splinting and bandaging that Sarah had applied. The young Valkyrian, now safe in familiar arms, began to chitter excitedly in its native language. Its high-pitched voice carried across the gathered warriors, and Sarah watched as their expressions changed from suspicion to something approaching wonder. Through her translator, she caught fragments of the child's account. Soft skin helped, no hurt, made pain stop, gentle strong like elder mother. Commander Thane's amber eyes fixed on Sarah with renewed intensity. But where before there had been predatory coldness, now there was something else entirely. Curiosity, respect, and perhaps most surprisingly, a glimmer of uncertainty. Your medical knowledge extends to our physiology, he observed, his deep voice carrying notes of genuine puzzlement. You understand our young blood's needs, yet humans and Valkyrians have shared only war knowledge for 3 cycles. How do you possess healing wisdom? Sarah straightened, her military training warring with the unprecedented nature of this conversation. Medical corps training includes xenobiology. We study every species we encounter, not just to fight them, but to understand them, to help them, if needed. The concept seemed to create ripples of discussion among the Valkyrian ranks. Their language, rendered through universal translators, filled the air with chittering debates about pack bonds and strength sharing and concepts that didn't translate cleanly into human understanding. Elder Zara emerged from the group of warriors, her ancient scales bearing the deep scarring of countless battles fought across decades of service. Unlike the others, her eyes held a wisdom that spoke of experiences beyond warfare. She approached Sarah with measured steps, her gait showing the careful consideration of one who had lived long enough to question the assumptions of youth. I am Zara, speaker for the deep memories, she announced, her voice carrying harmonics that human ears couldn't fully process. In my long seasons, I have witnessed the rise and fall of 17 species. All followed the path of conquest or submission. None chose the path you have shown this day. Sarah inclined her head respectfully. She had read about Valkyrian speakers in intelligence briefings, ancient advisors who served as living repositories of cultural knowledge and wisdom. To encounter one on a battlefield was unprecedented. Perhaps, Sarah said carefully, it's time someone tried a different path. The young Valkyrian wriggled free from Commander Thane's arms and, despite its injured leg, began to approach Sarah again. The adults watched in fascination as the child showed no fear of the human who had saved it. Instead, it reached out with small clawed hands and gently touched Sarah's face, its amber eyes bright with unmistakable affection. Small brother bonds with the soft skin, Elder Zara observed with something that might have been amusement. He speaks of gentle strength and protection warmth. These are concepts known to our deep memories but forgotten in our war seasons. Commander Thane's expression grew thoughtful as he watched the interaction. Our young blood sees no enemy in the human female. His truth sight is unclouded by battle anger, perhaps. He paused as if the words were difficult to speak. Perhaps we have misunderstood the nature of human strength. The moment was interrupted by the approach of Sarah's own forces. Sergeant Torres and a squad of human soldiers had fought their way through the battlefield to reach their captain. They arrived with weapons raised, clearly expecting to extract Sarah from a hostage situation. Instead, they found her standing, calmly among a group of Valkyrian warriors, with a young alien child clinging to her leg like a devoted pet. "Captain," Torres said slowly, his rifle trained on Commander Thane's massive form. "What's the situation here?" Sarah raised her hand in a gesture for calm. "Stand down, Sergeant. We're negotiating." "Negotiating?" Torres's voice carried disbelief. "Captain, these are the same aliens who've been trying to kill us for 3 years." Elder Zara stepped forward, her ancient eyes studying the new arrivals with interest. "Your pack leader speaks truth, human warriors. We have been locked in death dance for many seasons, but today has shown us new possibilities." The standoff stretched taut as both groups of soldiers eyed each other warily. Weapons remained raised, fingers hovering near triggers, while their leaders attempted something that neither species had tried before: genuine communication. It was the young Valkyrian who broke the tension. Still clinging to Sarah's leg, it began to hum a soft melody that human ears could barely detect. The other Valkyrians immediately recognized the sound, a traditional peace song taught to their young as a way to calm aggressive pack members. The child was instinctively trying to soothe the hostile atmosphere between the adults. Commander Thane's scarred features creased into what might have been the Valkyrian equivalent of a smile. "Wise small brother teaches us the old ways. Perhaps we should listen to his song wisdom." That's when the ground began to shake. Not the tremor of distant explosions or marching feet, but something deeper and more ominous. The twin suns of Zerion 7 flickered strangely as massive clouds of dust rose from the eastern mountains. Sarah's tactical display immediately shifted to geological sensors, and what she saw made her blood run cold. "Seismic activity," she breathed, reading the data streaming across her visor. "Major fault line destabilization. This whole region is about to..." Her words were cut off by a thunderous crack that split the air like the breaking of worlds. A jagged fissure opened in the ground less than a kilometer away, releasing jets of superheated steam and toxic gases. The mining operations had destabilized the planet's crust, and now Zerion 7 was tearing itself apart. Both human and Valkyrian settlements lay directly in the path of the expanding geological catastrophe. Elder Zara's ancient eyes went wide as she processed the implications. The deep, Earth awakens in anger. Both our peoples face the death song together. Commander Thane's military mind immediately grasped the tactical situation. "How long before the destruction reaches our positions?" Sarah checked her readings again, her stomach sinking at what she found. "The mining complex will be uninhabitable within 4 hours. But that's not the worst part." She looked up at the assembled warriors, human and Valkyrian alike. "There are civilian settlements on both sides of the fault line, thousands of beings, your people and mine, trapped with no way to evacuate in time." The young Valkyrian tugged at Sarah's uniform, chittering urgently. Its translator collar provided broken English. "Deep song coming. Pack mothers in danger. Must help all people." The child's innocent wisdom cut through the complexity of interspecies politics. Faced with a disaster that threatened everyone equally, the distinctions between human and Valkyrian suddenly seemed insignificant. Commander Thane straightened to his full imposing height, his scarred features set with grim determination. "Our warships have deep ground sensors and evacuation capacity. but they lack the technical knowledge to coordinate surface operations in human-built areas. Sarah nodded slowly, understanding dawning in her eyes. Our shuttles and ground vehicles can handle precision evacuations, but we don't have enough lift capacity for major population centers. We'd need your heavy transport capabilities. You propose alliance bonding, Elder Zara said, her ancient voice carrying notes of something between hope and disbelief. Valkyrian and human, working as one pack bond to preserve both peoples. I propose survival, Sarah replied firmly. Everything else we can figure out later. The decision hung in the air between them, weighted with 3 years of warfare and generations of mutual mistrust. Two species that had defined themselves by their opposition to each other now faced a choice that would either forge them into something new or doom them to mutual extinction. Commander Thane extended his massive clawed hand toward Sarah. When she grasped it without hesitation, the sensation was like touching living stone. Warm, powerful, and surprisingly gentle. Alliance bond, sealed, he rumbled, until all people find safety ground. The next 4 hours became a testament to what two species could accomplish when they worked together instead of against each other. Valkyrian heavy transports, guided by human navigation systems, evacuated entire settlements that would have been impossible for either species to save alone. Human medical personnel worked alongside Valkyrian healers, sharing knowledge and resources to treat injuries from the ongoing geological disaster. The young Valkyrian, whom Sarah learned was called Crix, became an unexpected bridge between the rescue teams. His natural ability to communicate with both species, combined with his innocent trust in the Alliance, helped smooth over countless small conflicts that could have derailed the entire operation. Sarah found herself working directly with Commander Thane, coordinating rescue operations from a joint command post established on stable ground. What struck her most was not his tactical brilliance, which was formidable, but his genuine concern for every life they were trying to save, human and Valkyrian alike. Your people fight fiercely, he observed during a brief lull in the evacuation, but they also protect fiercely. This is a strength concept we had not understood. Your people are more adaptable than we gave them credit for, Sarah replied. You've integrated our technology and tactics into your operations faster than I thought possible. As the last transport lifted off from the danger zone, carrying a mixed cargo of human and Valkyrian civilians, both commanders stood watching. The twin suns set over a planet that neither of their species could ever safely inhabit again. The geological catastrophe had claimed Zerion 7, but it had also given birth to something unprecedented, proof that cooperation could accomplish what conquest never could. Young Crix approached them as they watched the evacuation fleet disappear into the star-filled darkness of space. The child's injured leg had healed remarkably well, and he moved with the natural grace of his species. But something in his amber eyes had changed. Where once there had been the simple trust of childhood, now there was a deeper understanding of the complexity and possibility that existed between different peoples. Deep Song stopped, he observed, his translator caller rendering his words into thoughtful English. All people safe now, but what comes after safety ground? Commander, Thane and Sarah exchanged glances, both recognizing the profound wisdom in the child's question. The immediate crisis had passed, but they had created something that neither of their species had planned for, a functioning alliance built on mutual respect and shared purpose. What comes next, Sarah said softly, is the hardest part. We have to learn how to be neighbors instead of enemies. Elder Zara approached from the command post, her ancient features creased with something that looked remarkably like hope. The deep memories speak of such times, she said, seasons when pack bonds form across species lines. They are rare, but they are possible. Commander Thane nodded slowly, his scarred features thoughtful. The war season ends, but the learning season begins. Both our peoples must discover new ways to be strong together, rather than strong alone. As the rescue fleet reached the safety of deep space, carrying refugees who would need to build new homes and new lives, the alliance that had begun with one human's decision to save an injured child would face its greatest test, transforming from a crisis response into a lasting partnership between civilizations. The crimson dust of Xerion 7 continued to swirl in the toxic atmosphere of a dying world. But the seeds of a new relationship between humans and Valkyrians had taken root in the depths of space, nurtured by compassion and watered by the tears of those grateful to be alive. Sometimes the smallest acts of kindness could indeed reshape the destiny of entire species, proving that in a universe vast and often hostile, the greatest strength was not the ability to destroy one's enemies but the wisdom to transform them into friends.